Hey guys! Today I'd like to share with you a song that I think is not talked enough in the beginner guitar and beginner singer-songwriter circles. It's a Beatles song, and I think people usually avoid it because it sounds pretty complicated and difficult. But if you break it down and if you distill the essential elements, you can actually play it on the guitar and sing it really, really easily. So the song I'm talking about is Eleanor Rigby. You probably know the arrangement. There's a lot of strings in the arrangement, and the melody itself for singing is not very easy. It covers pretty wide range. There's musical elements that sound very sophisticated. But the chords for the songs are actually extremely easy and simple to play. So if you ever played guitar, if you ever took a beginner guitar lesson in your life, you probably know this chord E minor. Usually, and I say this to my students as a teacher, I encourage people to play it with middle finger and the ring finger, and I even call it the Spider-Man chord because it sort of looks like when Spider-Man weaves his web. But in this case, I would encourage you to play it with index finger and middle finger like this, and the reason is simple. The next chord we're going to play here, it's C major 7, and the only thing you need to change here is to lift the index finger and put the ring finger on the 3rd fret on the A string. That's all you need for this song. You could play the full C, but I actually think the C major 7 sounds much better and it's easier to play. So now before you start playing the song, I would encourage to just try and swap these two. And now you already have the song pretty much down. Before we get to some kind of a rhythm, start with just strumming the chords nicely, all down like this. Even with your thumb like this is fine. Just one thing to remember is that when you play the C major 7th chord, you want to play only the 5 bottom strings, not the E string. I mean, you could, but the root note of the chord is the C note, which is the 3rd fret on the A string. So strum the chord and start singing the melody you already know. Eleanor Rigby picks up the rice in a church where a wedding has been. So just before the word been, you change to the C chord. Lives in a dream, waits at the window, wearing the face that she keeps in the jar by the door. Door again, changing to the C major 7. Who is it for? And then this pre-chorus, All the Lonely People bit, is all on the E minor chord, nothing else. Again, just strum it. All the lonely people, where do they all come from? All the lonely people, where do they all belong? Really simple, just holding the chord, strumming all the strings. Perfect for anyone who knows this song already, knows how to sing it a little bit. You've listened to it pretty much and you know the melody, you want to accompany yourself on the guitar. Super simple. One thing to cover here is the starting note for this song. You play this chord and you're trying to figure out which note you're starting on, like the Eleanor Rigby. This is actually a tricky bit because this chord E minor, as we discussed, doesn't include that note. The word Eleanor, it's actually, it's on the 2nd fret on the G string. So it's basically this, you hear this chord at first, which is E sus. So this part is a little bit tricky at first to kind of find your first note. Eleanor Rigby. But then once you get it and you're on track with your melody, then you just follow your ear and hopefully you can figure it out. Then let me get to the chorus. Ah, look at all the lonely people. Yeah. So this bit it goes again to the C major 7 chord. Ah, look at all the lonely, and then back to E minor. And then you just avoid the da 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 da. Just imagine it or sing it or whatever. But for the basics of the song, it's like you can just do it with simple strums. Now, if you wanted to get a bit more fancy with it and play some rhythm, you could just, if you listen to the song, the strings are pretty simple. They just kind of go in those quarter notes like this. Da, 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 Eleanor Rigby. So you can do that. But in order for the strings to not ring over, you can always mute the strings with your palm like this. So Eleanor Rigby. And notice I'm also muting them here in the left hand with those two fingers. That's a bit more advanced, but you don't want to be Eleanor Rigby. Even this is okay, but whether it's Eleanor Rigby picks up the rice in a church where the wedding has been, lives in a dream. So you could do that to kind of emulate the original, or you could pick some simple guitar rhythm we usually learn when we start in guitar, something along the lines of or down, down, up, down, down. Eleanor Rigby picks up the rice in a church where a wedding has been, lives in a dream. Focus on the feel and fitting the rhythm you're playing in between those 4 beats. This song is on 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Eleanor Rigby. So whatever you play there, it's up to you, but it needs to fit in those 4. So even if you do Eleanor Rigby picks up the rice in a church where a wedding has been. But in this case, the phrasing of the lyrics kind of goes against the rhythm a little bit, so it gets a bit more tricky. So that would be kind of a next level. Yeah, really simple song. I think underrated for beginner guitarist. I was inspired in one of my lessons. One of my students brought it, and I realized it's actually really simple to play. And a lot of people, I think, could benefit from learning this song as long as you already know it. Because if you don't know it, maybe the melody might be a bit tricky to learn. But if you already know it, you can play it. It's easy. Hope this was helpful. Hope you learned something. And if you're someone who's trying to get back into music, but those limiting beliefs inside of you, this negative self-talk, keep telling you that you might be too old, or it's too late to start, or you're not talented enough. I work with musicians and music enthusiasts of all ages, and a lot of the times these are just limiting beliefs. So download a free checklist below. It's a musician limiting belief checklist that will kind of show you the common ones, and you can find yourself there and reflect on what's holding you back. See you in the next one. Keep it funky.